It is day 2 of Chad Daybell's murder trial as jurors hear prosecutors claim Daybell was in pursuit of sex, money, and power, which led him to kill his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and his second wife, Lori Vallow Daybell's 2 children, Tylee and JJ Vallow. Prosecutors say this was all part of a doomsday plot where Daybell and Vallow thought her kids were dark spirits and zombies. That trial is expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. Let's take a legal deep dive into this case. Criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz joins me once again. Hector, how strong is this religious argument?
Not strong in terms of negating guilt. I think what his lawyer strategy in this case is really recognizing that he's facing the death penalty is let's get the death penalty off the table here in terms of, when he's convicted here for the act. I don't think that, there's any question that his lawyers are saying, hey, they're going to convict him of the act.
Right.
It's a fight over whether or not to impose the death penalty.
Okay, I want to talk about his lawyers. One specifically here, attorney John Pryor. Now, at the beginning of this year, Pryor actually tried to withdraw from the case because Daybell couldn't pay him. Not only that, if he withdrew, Daybell would have been appointed 2 attorneys who were qualified to handle death penalty cases. Now, the judge denied this motion to withdraw because this would result in even more delays. So I'm wondering this, Hector, how strong is Daybell's defense if his attorney wanted off the case? I'll be honest with you, if I'm Chad, I'm worried.
Yeah. If you're the defendant, you're now questioning whether your lawyer is going to step up for you every day. Now, I will say every lawyer, private lawyer that takes a case, when you file that notice of appearance in a criminal court case, you're acknowledging that you're in for the case, right? You are in for the case. There are certain exceptions under the rules that allow a defendant to withdraw, and in some cases, it's you're getting paid.
Right.
The idea is that you're getting paid, and if you're not, that's a breach of the representation agreement. You should be allowed to be let out. But sometimes you're so deep into the case, you are on the, you're knocking on the door of trial.
And especially in a case like this where it's so high profile.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that this lawyer is going to uphold his ethical standards in terms of, fulfilling his obligations in defending Mr. Daybell. But, if you're Chad Daybell and this motion getting filed, on the eve of trial, it's really
that he wants
it's
off
cause
the case.
Concerns for him, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to another case here. This week, the parents of a Michigan school shooter were sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison. Jennifer and James Crumbley were convicted of involuntary manslaughter for failing to prevent their teenage son from killing 4 fellow students. They are the first parents in the country to be convicted over the deaths caused by their child in a mass shooting. Hector, this is very historic. Talk about the implications this case has and really the precedent that it sets going forward.
This case held parents responsible for the intentional criminal acts of their child.
Right.
And, it's a novel case. There have been other cases close to it, but not for, where you had somebody convicted of manslaughter, where they weren't directly involved in the act. And here, again, I think it's important to note these were very egregious, very kind of a rare set of circumstances. And I think the judge in sentencing commented and raised this issue when the mother said, this can happen to any parent. Any parent can be in my shoes here. And that judge pushed back and said, no, that's not the case. There are very, very exceptional circumstances here where there were absolutely loud warning sirens going off.
Right. In fact, I'm glad you talked about that because the judge specifically said, quote, the lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train, repeatedly ignoring things that would make a reasonable person feel the hair on the back of her neck stand up. This wasn't about poor parenting.
Absolutely not. It wasn't. Again, there were some very significant warning signs. This was a boy that was very troubled, and absolutely the parents should have saw what was going on. They were reckless and disregarding and showing absolutely no supervision or care, and this is why they were charged and ultimately convicted. So, should the general public be concerned here? This is going to happen here in Arizona. This could, for, again, rare set of circumstances, very egregious acts. Again, there were lack of supervision, lack of care. Could we see this expanded in other areas? Sure. Absolutely. But again, I think it has to show a pattern of recklessness. I think that's what these prosecutors and this judge commented on, that it wasn't once or twice. This was a series of misconduct.
Yes.
Really quick, though, such a novel prosecution. this case is absolutely going to get appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court. You're going to see this appealed because of the sentences and because of holding the parents essentially culpable for manslaughter.
All right, Hector, you've been phenomenal. Thank you so much for your deep dive analysis.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it.